You're watching us here on Scaling Right, brought to you by the Artha School of Entrepreneurship. This is a show where we talk to founders about building sustainable businesses and the many roads to get there. Talking about building businesses, scaling a business is not just about growth. It's about doing it in a way that is enduring and sustainable. It's about finding the right balance between a creative problem and using creations or creative solutions for problem solving and the day-to-day detailed steps required for sustainable scaling. So how do you strike that balance between ambition, strategy, execution, and sustainability? To discuss this with me today, I have with me, and I'm excited for that, Sachin Oswal, who's the founder of Originity, and he is an active angel investor. Originity focuses on impact investing and believes in sustainable development goals. Can't think of a better person to talk us through this episode. Thank you so much for joining in, Sachin. Originity, it's an interesting name. Where does that come from?
I've been investing in businesses which are built from the go to sustain over long periods of time. So Originity is an acronym for Origin to Eternity.
Wow.
The idea is to have startups which build with that philosophy.
So, how do you identify a sustainable business? How do you define one, so to say?
So sustainable businesses are businesses to me that will last generations. They over time they get woven into our fabric of day-to-day lives. They may have a moat, but most importantly, they have a product offering which customers love, and they're profitable. They compound their shareholders' wealth year on year. They also contribute to the society.
You got to give me an example. How do you identify a sustainable business? How do you think, okay, this is a business? Because at the start, before investing in any company, it's not grown to scale, especially at the stage that you enter, right? So how do you decide, okay, this looks like a sustainable business? What are the parameters according to you?
At the beginning, you cannot identify a sustainable business. So today, for example, a Tata Group is an amazing example of a sustainable business. There are other examples like Asian Paints. But you can't identify most of the businesses from the beginning. But you identify founders who come with that mindset. They want to build businesses. They are not in a hurry to just grow and expand and sell. They want to build businesses for a long period of time that will last beyond them. So it's a challenge to identify from the beginning, but it takes a few conversations with the founder to identify these.
So what do those conversations have to be?
So you go into their mindset and you ask them, okay, how long are you committed to this problem?
Got it.
There are a lot of founders who are mission oriented. So I know a founder who wanted to do something in the agri-tech space.
Got it.
He went and lived with farmers to identify their problems. So a lot of these founders are mission oriented. They are committed to a problem, to a space, to a sector, and they want to build something valuable, impactful in that space. So that's one of the characteristics. Second, you identify with how committed are they to this. Are they going to do it for a few years? Are they willing to commit their lives to it? Third, how aggressive are they? Do they just want to do something quick, sell it and make money? Or are they trying to create something which lasts beyond their life?
So I understand the sustainability part of it. The other part is the scale. It's difficult to find a business which is sustainable. It's difficult to scale any business.
Yeah.
Now think about both of them together. Scaling a sustainable business.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Businesses inherently have to be profitable. A startup goes through a certain number of steps, right? First is your idea. Then you have something called as a minimal viable product. Then you have something called as product market fit. And then you have something called as go-to-market strategy. So startups go through these phases.
Right.
Before you scale a business, you have to make sure that you have got your product market fit right. You have identified your target customer right. You have established pricing models which are comfortable to the customer. It's not possible to build a business where you don't have paying customers, where you're making losses. Losses are not sustainable. So the first most important thing, according to me, for a startup is to lay the foundation of a right product market fit. A lot of startups tend to fail during this phase. They don't have paying customers and they believe that they've achieved a product market fit.
Right. So is this just the foundation of sustainable scaling, or there's more to it than just product market fit?
There's of course more to it.
Like what?
Beyond product market fit, you have to make sure that you size your market well. You have to make sure that you have your distribution strategies chalked out right. If there is something called as TAM, SAM, SOM that founders kind of go through,
Yes.
target addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and serviceable obtainable market. Founders tend to assume that all the market out there is their market, you know.
Yes.
And this is a big assumption that where they may go wrong. So it's important for founders to make sure that they get their market estimation right, because that will define how they're going to go capture that market. If it's a small niche market, but you have good paying customers, you would want to grow linearly in that market. If it's a large market, you may want to go a lot more aggressively to kind of capture that market.
So when you speak about new age companies, I mean, you spoke about the Tatas, you spoke about Asian Paints, etc. There are a lot of these new age companies as well. What do you think is sustainable here?
So there are new models that have come up, like blitzscaling and so on. A lot of new age companies have kind of adopted the blitzscaling mindset.
What does that mean?
Blitzscaling is scaling aggressively in a market. So there is more focus on aggressive expansion than efficiencies.
Got it.
But blitzscaling applies to a certain set of markets only. These are large markets which have very high network effects with large profitable pools at the end.
Got it.
But first you have to capture the market so that you can get the network effects. Not all startups are suitable for this. A lot of new age startups that we see, they blitzscaled very aggressively, and some of them were successful in capturing large markets like the likes of Zomato, Swiggy, and now they're able to establish profit pools from that market. Some of them aggressively expanded like in the edtech space, but they're not able to establish monetization models. So this whole blitzscaling or aggressive expansion may not apply to every sector, every market. It's important for a startup to realize which market they're going
So as
after.
for you, these should come with disclaimers: fail fast, blitzscale, and all of that.
Yes. Fail fast, blitzscale works extensively in consumer-driven markets where you have network effects going for you. But it's always important that you iterate in smaller markets. When you are establishing your product market fit, it is much easier to experiment, to try new models.
So what are the models right now which are there, according to you? There is, you spoke about blitzscale.
Yeah.
Briefly mentioned fail fast.
So
What
there
are the
are-
others?
yeah.
And where are they applicable?
Primarily, there are these two, which is linear expansion, linear growth, and blitzscaling. So whether you want to go after one customer, one market in a +1 format, like IKEA, right? They grew slowly. They established a few stores, made sure they were profitable, then established more geographies, then grew across geographies. So that's more like a slow linear growth, but it is persistent. Every expansion comes with more profit pools, which give you the ability. There are a lot of different models to grow. For example, the best one is sales-led, where it's relationship driven. Enterprise software is that way. You go after one customer after another, you establish the relationships. There are marketing-led models where you establish customer trust, a brand. A lot of HULs, Nestle, they are driven through this model where you establish a brand and then customers will come after you. There's service-led models where you are banking on convenience, service delivery. Amazon's a classic example, right? Fast delivery, amazing selection, focused on the operational supply chain. There are ad-led models. I think this is a model that a lot of startups have gone after, which is you are on steroids, you're doing Google, Facebook ads all the time and acquiring customers. You're acquiring the same customers often over and over again. There are two new models which I believe a lot of startups are banking on. One is organic growth model, which is community and content driven. So you establish your community, so you offer content and information to this community, which is fresh, new, which the community likes, and then you bring in product offerings to that community. It grows organically across the community without a lot of marketing. And in the product side, in the SaaS world, there's something called as product-led growth.
Okay.
You are offering very, very unique features in your product, which your customers love. So the product is driving the adoption. You don't have to market to your customers. You don't have to do ads. So these are two new age models which a lot of startups are leveraging.
Oh, that's very interesting because, all of these that you spoke about do resonate with a lot of the companies which we know of as having become successes, etc. But while you spoke about Tatas and Asian Paints, I'm sure a lot of the earlier age-old traditional companies as well, which have been scaling and growing for decades. You briefly mentioned a few like IKEA, etc. What have your key learnings been from each of these big companies, if you could like summarize it for us?
Yeah, so these are what I call sustainable generational businesses, right? There are a few things that are going for them. The first, most important is they have a deep-rooted moat. They have a moat, maybe a technology, a product offering, a service offering, right, which no one can beat. The second most important thing is they're extremely careful about their resource allocation. So they make sure that all their resources, which is time, money, goes in protecting and expanding this moat.
Got it.
All the innovation is going around that moat. They are very careful not to diversify. They're focused. The third is they understand risk management very well. They're resilient, persistent through cycles. They will survive all the odds, right?
Yes.
So they understand market cycles and they understand the risk management. Fourth, most important, there is no single point of failure.
Yes.
Right? They are not dependent on one market, one customer, one product. And they make sure they have diversified to not have dependency on a single point of failure in their setup. So I think all these brands are extremely competitive to not give away an inch. Asian Paints, such an old company, is a classic example. Apple, right? Time after time, they're just growing. Nestle, you look at how they've expanded their products across geographies. Maruti Suzuki, so many companies and go, but they are still number one year
Yeah, by
after
the way,
year,
in the
right?
SUV world, Maruti now has the highest market share. So we did have the big, surge of all the Cretas and others
Yeah.
of the world. Maruti was a late starter in that, but because of their moat, the size of distribution and production and manufacturing and the value conscious positioning that Maruti had,
Yeah.
it's back to the top honors.
It is back to the top honors. So they understand the trend and then they come after the trend in such a way that they will capture it. They may be late to a trend, but they are watching. They come at the right inflection point and then they take the market out
Hindustan
again.
Unilever, when the green tea brigade had started, they were the late starters in that.
Yeah.
15 years later, Lipton is the only one which is surviving.
Yeah, exactly. And look at Tata Motors, right? All these brands, they may be a little late, but they're watching.
Yeah.
They make sure they don't diversify for every new trend, but if a trend is persistent, they will go and capture it.
So let's ask you this existential question: or can a company live forever? I mean, there is a lot of research, which drives, which speaks about growth, scale, and all of that. How do you ensure that a company lives beyond their founder?
Yeah. So Fortune 500, right? There's so many companies which have been there for a long time and gone. Nature has its own way of bringing about change. When you study evolution, you see that species that you never thought will go extinct, like dinosaurs, have gone extinct. And then there are species like cockroaches, which have survived eons, right? So businesses actually, I believe, have to be like cockroaches. There are some businesses, there are many reasons, businesses kind of go in and out. There's political, economic, natural. Bell Labs was broken down by governments for monopolistic behavior. There will be companies which go out of business because the technology changes, paper, right? Cameras, watches. But there are some businesses which have survived. IBM started out as a software hardware company. Today it's a software company. 3M. It's been innovating since such a long time, transforming.
You don't even
product
know
after
what the
product.
original business of the company was.
Exactly. Yeah. GE today is completely different from what it was. So what I think is most important is businesses have to be flexible, nimble, focused to change with time. There are also models where, businesses cannot diversify too much. So then businesses have to split, divest the non-core assets like a Reliance, right? They have expanded so well into other categories, but they verticalized it, and these businesses will become separate companies. The way human survives through progeny, these businesses conglomerate split to stay focused on their core, and then other companies kind of diversified into different companies.
So how much of this can be planned? That's the question. Because, now that we're talking about all these companies, the ones that you mentioned, also the ones that you said could not grow beyond a certain point or hit some roadblock, it's all with a sense of survivorship bias.
Yeah.
So how much of this can be planned and how much of this is just plain survivorship bias or post-facto analysis?
There will always be, events which will take a company out completely. You have no control over it. So COVID, right? There would have been great companies which went out of business during that time. But I think it's an iterative process. So you have to plan, build, continuously measure, be watchful, survive. Most important is survive. After a certain time, they say in India, if you survive, you'll
You
build a
thrive.
business.
Yes.
You survive for 10 years and you will build a sustainable. So surviving, persisting is the most important thing. And then you iterate again, which is plan, build, measure, scale, survive, and repeat. So I think you can't take things for granted. But also, as Bezos will say, right, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, that they focus on things that stand the test of time and
Yes.
that not change all the time.
Bet
So
on things that are not going to change rather than
yeah.
drive any sort of disruption or play the disruption game.
Yeah, so these businesses are very careful. They're watching the trends. They know which ones will persist and only go after that and not go after everything, because going after every trend also means allocating resources.
So you said that at the start when we spoke about how do you define sustainable businesses and how do you identify all of them,
Yeah.
the thing that stood out was the owner's own mindset and ambition.
Yeah.
How does one tweak that? How does one assess that? How does one shape that over a period of time for even a not so attractive business proposition to suddenly become extremely big? Like
Yeah.
Asian Paints you suggested, right? At the end of the day, it was a chemical selling paint, but it was that founder's mindset that wanted the company to become a consumer product, then
Yeah.
advertised it. It was a generic industry that suddenly became a branded industry and then kept moving on and defined the market from just being a company that paints walls to a company that decorates homes.
Yeah.
So how does one do that to a founder's mindset and ambition?
So if you see, every trend always had an influencer. People may say trends become bigger, but actually influencers make the trends bigger. So let's take an example of EV. EV happened. Did EV happen because of Elon Musk, or Elon Musk made EV happen, is the question to ask. So every trend will always have an influencer, and you need to find founders who are going to change the dynamics of an industry because they believe in a particular
Can
thing.
you build such founders, or are they inborn?
They are inborn. I think they are born. The upbringing shapes them, right? Can you build or can you bring up Jeff Bezos? Can you bring up a Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs was a combination of everything that happened to him over time,
Yeah.
right? He single-handedly changed so many industries.
So among the companies that you invest in your portfolio, how many of them, or who, according to you, or these may be companies that you might not have invested in as well,
Yeah.
but you look at them and you're like, these guys do believe that they can be the Steve Jobs of this generation,
Yeah.
at least in India, if not the global.
So if we look at a few founders in India, right? You look at VSS, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, single-handedly transformed the whole payment industry, started with wallets. So many regulations came. He went after persisted, right? From wallet, he went into UPI, into loans. But he was persistent in this industry, and he's one founder, I believe, has transformed that industry in India.
Right.
You look at other such entrepreneurs, right? Bhavish, he's been focused on Ola, whether it's through last mile connectivity through Ola transportation or through electric now, right? But he's focused on that field, and he's 40% market share in the electric space today through sheer persistence, right? Surviving against all odds. There are many such founders. I believe the Bansals also made a significant contribution to the Indian economy through Flipkart, right? Retail completely transformed because of them, and even startup industry transformed. So we have many examples. Zomato completely transform how food delivery happens, or food reservation happens.
Or Nykaa for that matter.
Nykaa for that matter, right? There are the sugar cosmetics, if you've seen them. They've transformed, they've pivoted, but they've persisted. So I think founders have to be extremely resilient to make sure that they first survive, so that the companies also survive, right? They are putting in all their time, money, energy into the company. They're going to persist for a long time against all odds. There's going to be no boundary between work and life. They will have to balance everything out. They have to understand their strengths and weaknesses and build complementary people on their team. So these are all the things that you look for in founders. Have they survived against odds so far in their journey. How have they done through their colleges? How have they done through their jobs? What are the odds that they conquered? If they're saying, okay, I'm going to build this, how persistent are they going to be in this? Because lots of things will happen in the journey. And are they going to go on?
That's incredible. And yeah, you first survive, and then if there's a problem, you face that, you revive, and once you survive and revive, you perhaps thrive. Thank you so much, Sachin. This was incredible. I mean, scaling is not just about reaching new heights. It's about doing so in a way that ensures longevity and resilience. May your scaling endeavors be marked by both the creativity of your vision and the precision of your strategy. I hope this podcast will serve as a guide for your scaling ambitions. Until then, it's me, Mangalam Maloo, signing off.
IVM.